to Awakening Airwaves. My name is Evelyn Lyle, and I have a new podcast to share with you that I'm calling Aligned and Whole, a space where every part of you is welcome. Here we honor the full human experience, the body and the breath, the mind and the emotions, and the spirit and all the stories that we carry, including the ones shaped by family, by our culture, ancestry, and our own lived experiences. In this space, I'm inviting you to listen with your inside and to remember that wholeness and alignment is not something you earn or achieve. It's something that we return to. So, what does it mean to be able to live in alignment with your values, your nervous system, your intuition, and your unique way of being in the world? In many spiritual and healing traditions, personal wholeness is seen as balance, balance within the self, between the self and others, and between the individual and the unseen. Personal wholeness is not perfection. It also doesn't mean the absence of pain, struggle, disability, or differences. Rather, it's a capacity to hold all parts of ourselves. Wholeness means you recognize and accept your strengths, vulnerabilities, wounds, gifts, and contradictions without fragmentations or denial. So it's important to know what you're good at and then claim it. What is your good thing? What is the thing that you do that always turns out well? What is the thing that people always come to you for? Maybe you're a good speaker, a good organizer. Maybe you're a great teacher. Maybe people love being around you because you're fun and non-judgmental. What do others think about you? But most importantly, what are they reflecting to you? And what do you think about yourself? Are you a good listener? Maybe people seek advice from you. Personal wholeness is the experience of being fully oneself without being able to get caught up in judgments or comparisons. It's about having a meaningful connection to your own life. So, what this looks like in daily life is that maybe you're a very organized person, you're always on time, and when you arrive somewhere, you're fully engaged and balanced because you're fully connected, you're in alignment. Misalignment can show up as fatigue or overwhelm, disconnection, masking imbalance. So if you're always late, maybe it means that you really don't want to participate in the things that you do in your life. So ask yourself, why are you doing those things? What keeps you doing the same thing over and over again? Wholeness and alignment includes struggle. It includes differences with people, and it includes changing. So we have to pay close attention to the specific feelings, the thoughts, and the behaviors that we display during challenging times. And it gives us really good information to do self-reflection on those critical things that is important for us to understand so that we can return to balance, return to alignment, and feel whole because we're constantly fluctuating in and out of different frequencies. So, all information is good information. Without awareness of this good information, it would be difficult to determine what's really happening in our lives. So, we can be whole when we need help. We can be whole when we're learning. We can be whole as we're growing. So many of us live with a lot of different labels. So I prefer to call labels giving a name to our unique characteristics. And so whether you struggle with neurodiversity, ADHD, autism, or maybe you're just being human and people want to call it something so that they can connect with it or judge it. But we're not into that. We're looking for information so that we can transform, so that we can recalibrate, we can realign. So let's take a look at how we might be able to foster wholeness when we're young. How can we foster wholeness in our children? So whether you're a parent or a grandparent, an auntie, an uncle, maybe you don't have any biological children, but you have children in your life. So you have children. They belong to all of us. So with very young children, it would look like paying attention to the cues that they're giving us about what they like and what they don't like, and take it serious. So even children who are not verbal yet, they're showing you in their behavior what it is they like, what they need, and what they want. So try to limit, whenever possible, forcing them to do things. Rather, encourage them to try new things, encourage them to be brave, and walk with them and figuring out how they are communicating to you their preferences. So, an example of that might be a child who's very sensitive. Maybe they don't really like hugs. And so, when somebody comes, whether it's a stranger or a familiar person, and they always want to pick up the child and want to hug them, and the child doesn't want that, don't force them. Let their no be no and their yes be yes, and examine with them what is really going on. Maybe there's some energy in that person's force field that is not comfortable to that child. It doesn't mean it's a bad person. Maybe they just had a bad day and the child's picking up on that energy. Maybe it's the cologne or the lotion that they wear and the scent of it is not comfortable for that child. They just don't like it. And so rather than force the child to be nice, to be cordial, you're overriding what they're communicating to you that they prefer. And so be an advocate for your child by explaining to people, my child doesn't like hugs. Maybe that you can work with them to give a fist bump or a high five, or maybe just a smile from a distance. The point is for them to be in alignment with what their spirit is telling them, how their energy is communicating with them is the most important thing you can do for them in that instance. I'm sure you can remember a time in your childhood where there was something or someone that you didn't want to do, but maybe your elders didn't know how to listen and observe, and you were forced to do that thing anyway. What did that feel like for you? So always be in the position of being an advocate for your child and investigate their why and help communicate that to them. So as age appropriate, you would guide them from that viewpoint. Teach your child to notice their own body signals when they're hungry. So a lot of children get very cranky, as we adults do, when they're hungry. So maybe in that instance, you let the child identify. You probably already know that that's what the challenge is, but help them to understand if their stomach is feeling this way or that, that means that they're hungry or maybe they're thirsty. Help them to figure those things out so that they can put signs if they're nonverbal or words if they are verbal to what it is they want rather than crying and being fussy. That empowers them greatly and leads to that feeling of wholeness. If they're tired, the same thing. Rather than fussing and fighting to sleep, help them understand the importance of surrender when the body is communicating that with them. Same thing with tension or excitement. Some children get easily overexcited. Teach them self-regulation. So you can create activity that you can start at a very young age is have an activity where you create an affirmation and maybe a vision board of all about me. So you identify things that the child likes, the things that a child doesn't like, and then maybe you draw a picture or you find pictures in a magazine or whatever you choose to do, or write the words, even if they aren't at the late chance of reading. You can familiarize them with the alphabet and with letters and with words. And so you would have this maybe in their room or maybe in the family room, and you update it as you learn more about them, or as they grow out of certain behaviors, then those things might be eliminated. It'd be a family activity. Excuse me. So it's also important to teach gratitude. So the once that you figure things out, celebrate that you, oh my gosh, now I understand, and celebrate that communication. Really good to reinforce. Introduce meditation. And maybe that meditation is just that I breathe in and I breathe out. And how do I feel about that? You can take the child's small hand and put it on your belly or on your chest as you breathe. And you breathe in to the count of three and breathe out to the count of three. And the child senses that, and that helps them calm down. It teaches them, oh, when I'm feeling a little off, I can breathe. And when they become of age to be able to control their breathing, they will mimic that because you will have shown them and taught them by letting them feel your breath by the way your body feels. Also, it's important to encourage the children to spend time in nature, appreciating the beauty and the splendor of nature at an early age. Unfortunately, nowadays, many children spend so much time indoors as opposed to outside playing just because the way our world is today. With older children and teens, you can do some of those same things, just, ramp it up a little bit. But it's important to talk to them all the time about how they're feeling, helping them to give understanding and give words to describe what it is going on with them. Be very intentional when you're planning things with them. Include them in the plans as much as possible, age appropriate, of course. So, one of the things would be teaching them how to anticipate so that they can be more relaxed and comfortable. So maybe if you're going to a new friend's house, you can help them talk about how they feel about going to the friend's house, what they might want to share with that friend, what they think that friend might like for them to bring, maybe their favorite book to share or a favorite toy, things of that nature. And it's also important in your planning with your child to have a safe word. And that would be between you and the child. It could be anything. It could be caterpillar, as long as the two of you agree and know that if I say caterpillar or you say caterpillar, that means I need help. I need support. Also, you need definite nonverbal cues because you may find yourself in a situation with your child where it's not appropriate to speak in the moment, but a certain look or a hand signal can mean something that I need support. So, for instance, maybe you take the right hand and put it on the right cheek, or you take the thumb and put it on the chin, whatever works for you and your child. But the most important part is that they're able to identify that they are needing some support or a change, and they can communicate that to you and other loved ones who may be accompanying them. They can feel safe and know that you've got their back. And then, of course, you would communicate those things with other caregivers that may be around. When you're going out to a public place or something, make sure that you reinforce, remember our rules, recite them on the way, and things like that. And also, one of the first things you can do is find a bathroom as soon as you arrive at a new location so that there's no question that if they have to go, they know they can go if they're old enough to do that on their own. This will help them tremendously. So always praise effort instead of perfection and avoid comparison with others. None of us like that. So Teach that mistakes are learning opportunities. And guess what? One of my mottos in life is to teach is to learn twice over. So as you're doing these things with your children, you're also reinforcing those things for yourself. And if you didn't have the opportunity to have some of these things when you were coming up, you're giving them to yourself now via your children. So also, whatever you're doing, you want to be consistent and encourage consistency as much as humanly possible with your children. Wholeness is learning how to connect with others, and consistency is going to be something to teach your child how to be dependable because you can be depended on to have their back. Also, it's important to talk about consent and personal space. Really, really important, even at young ages. Remember the example about the child who didn't like hugs. And so, when you're feeling that your yes is respected, your no is respected, your body is respected, your space is respected, you're going to feel really good about your alignment. So practice conflict resolutions by role playing respectfully and making some scenarios that you can rehearse. That can be done at almost any age, as long as the child is at the age where they can attend to get conversation. You can find a way to practice these kinds of things. So teach easy, discreet coping skills and self-soothing skills such as the breathing, but also you may find some others for them. Maybe you teach them how to place their hand on their heart or right at the lower belly to just calm and ground. Teach them if they're feeling out of sorts, maybe grounding is really easy. Just drink some cool water. They could always ask for a cup of water. Excuse me. And there are things that we can do that are signs of wholeness. So if your child is hyper, meaning that they have a lot of energy, one of the things you can do is you can have fidget toys for them or things like that. And maybe you have a system where maybe you can rub their feet or rub their hands, things like that, and then teach them to do that for themselves. So we want them to have confidence in themselves to be able to take care of their own needs because you are good and consistent at taking care of their needs at a young age when they need it. So as they grow, they begin to be able to do those things for themselves. Healthy boundaries are real important too, knowing when things are too much or where there needs to be more, having empathy for others. So even with children who don't have siblings, you can teach that between you and yourself, or if you have pets. It's very important for children to be curious and to be joyful. So teach them how to be curious. Oh my gosh, do you see that? What do you think that is? What color do you think the cat would want so and so? Just, and be playful with it so they're engaged. And it can be a lot of fun for you too. So it's important also for children to have a sense of purpose, not always be catered to. So give them some responsibility. Maybe when you're cooking, they can go and grab the forks and put them on the table, or maybe they can take out the bread and put it on the plate. Just little things to help them feel a part of things and engage, not waiting until they're a certain age to have chores and things like that. I believe in chores at an early, very early age. There's always something they can do to help with their own cleanup and clean up in the home and in the family so they have a sense of belonging. So some of the manifestations of wholeness and alignment might shift over our lifetime. So as we get into young adulthood, middle ages, and even eldership, where I live right now, some of the things that work for us to feel whole and in alignment are going to shift and change based on who we are and at what stage of life. So it just involves us being conscious of what's happening within us, how we feel about things, as well as how the environment that we're in plugs into us. And if we feel connected to ourselves, if we feel comfortable within ourselves, and that takes paying attention. So, speaking your truth is important, but feeling your truth is even more important. And when we have our morals and our ethics clear in our own minds, as we become more and more engaged in our communities and our different stages of adulthood, then we adjust our behaviors accordingly. And so those things will help us to feel aligned and connected, as opposed to maybe we have some behaviors from a younger age that we've carried over out of habit and it's no longer effective for us. And that causes us not to feel good about ourselves. And so paying attention. And this brings up the topic for me of that there may be times in our lives and times even in our children's lives where we may have some confusion. We may have some conflicts within us. And so just like we take care of our physical bodies and we go to the doctor, sometimes in our mental and emotional life, we might need to go to the psychologist to get a checkup to make sure we're on point if that's something that is important, that we're having some challenges there. So we have to always look at life from a holistic perspective. I know myself, there are many times that I will go and have a counseling session here and there with a therapist just to keep myself regulated. Can't hurt, and it definitely can help. So all of these things together contribute to being authentic and fulfilled rather than conflicted and unaware of when things are out of alignment for us. So, as young adults, it's important to look at the story of our lives and be realistic about the things that we were taught as young people and how we've evolved through those things. Look at the friends you have, the behaviors, the activities that you're participating in, the opportunities that you're taking advantage of, as well as those that you're not taking advantage of that maybe you thought about or things that may be good. So having clear goals for yourself at different stages of life, and also making sure that you are connected to your community and that those activities of connection are satisfying to you. In the time that I grew up, children were to be seen and not heard. And as a result, there were a lot of rules in place to safe for safety, but sometimes those things would get in the way of the child being able to express themselves. In our era, also, many people believed that children were born with a blank slate and that it was up to their parents and the other elders in their life to teach them who they are and show them the way they should go, as opposed to nowadays, more people think in terms of that we each have a personal destiny. So sometimes as we grow in life, we have conflicts with those kind of things. And it's important to do your reflection, to look back over your life and see how you have changed from maybe what your family philosophy was about rearing children and what the role of elders was, so that you can make sure that you are fully engaged with yourself and what your upbringing was and how it impacts your life now. And if indeed you are a parent or a grandparent or you have children in your life, you'll be able to do that same thing for them. So many times when you come from a very strict upbringing, it causes you to question a lot of things in your life, and that's a good thing. Remember, I'm a firm believer that information is so important. So with everything we do, we get a lot of good information. So look at how you were brought up to make decisions, and are those methods still working for you? And if not, you can work towards learning some better ways to make decisions for yourself. So I know for myself, decision making has been a thing that I was challenged with, because for me, a lot of decisions about my life were made for me. And so you learn to conform. I was a very sensitive, energetically sensitive child growing up. And so I learned easy how to conform to stay out of trouble and to stay in alignment with what were the expectations that were put on me. So that can mean that I was a very compliant person, so I was an easy kid to raise. But on the side for me, it made decision making challenging. I would go back and forth about what it is I wanted versus what was the expectation for me. So you can see how that could be a little challenging. Where on the other hand, some people had a lot of freedom and sometimes they had a little bit too much to be able to rein things in and know how to regulate themselves. So we have that information based on however things went for you and where you are at stages in your life to be able to make good choices. So that's something I definitely think it takes some reflection. So as you examine your life, ask yourself what feels in alignment right now. What part of me is asking to be honored? We are whole even when we don't feel like it. Your feelings are allowed. Your body is respected. Your thoughts matter. Your differences are not treated like something is wrong with you. All of those things are things that we need to look at to help us know when we're aligned and when we're feeling whole. So think about these things for yourself and for each of your children and for the important people in your life so that you can only understand them better, but you'll begin to understand yourself and your relationship with other people. And that will also foster your wholeness and alignment. So we're not broken. We're not damaged. We came to Earth to learn, to evolve, to connect with source energy through each other. As energetic beings, we require constant recalibration because we're constantly in connection with the fluctuating frequencies of our universe. So, daily recalibration or resets is highly recommended. I call them RDR, daily recommended recalibration. So, important on the list is rest, knowing how much rest you require, whether you're looking at rest from a perspective of relaxation or from actual sleep. Everybody has different needs. Your children have different needs. It changes throughout our life, so always be checking on that. Also, it's important, of course, to have a proper diet, a good, clean diet, and that means different things for different people. Balance between work and recreation. All work and no play is not a good thing, but also no all play and no work is not good either. Human connection is vital to our survival, to our feeling about life and about ourselves. And then we also need time alone to reflect and connect and be clear. Sometimes we're so sensitive and we're picking up on everybody else's thoughts and feelings, and also we don't really even know who we are. And so it's time make sure that we have time alone. Teach that to your children at an early age. An early age. Make sure they have time alone. Start off appropriately with just a few minutes here and there, quiet time. It doesn't mean they have to sit and do nothing. They can look at a picture book, they can play with a toy, even if they have other kids around. But time alone is a very valuable skill, a tool to learn. Time in nature also. Oh my gosh, that is so important. Nowadays, most of our children, because of the way our world is, they spend so much time indoors. They don't go outside enough and play. Sometimes it's the environment that they live in that is not conducive, or maybe the parents are working a lot, so they need to be indoors so they can be, safer. But spending time in nature alone as well as with family members is something that sometimes you might have to just really consciously schedule. Hydration, hydration, hydration. We're mostly water, so we need to drink a lot of water, not juice, not sodas, plain old good old-fashioned water. Personal wellness, awareness, and reflection. I keep saying that, but that's where the gems come through. Also, I am a proponent of teaching children how to pray. So, whatever prayer means for you, to me, prayer is affirmations, speaking what it is you desire, what it is that your goals are. So, it's not just begging spirit for something, it's about affirming what it is that you require and desire. And then meditation is when we're listening to hear the response of our soul, to hear the response of source energy about those affirmations that we made, teaching children that there is something greater than them, something bigger than them, that they're connected to, that they're made of, that they come from, is very important to us as a human species. And then, of course, reflecting and sharing all of those things is important, whether it's in conversation. A lot of families have traditions where they sit together for meals and they ask, "How was your day?" Things like that. A lot of families that don't do that find other ways to do that. Maybe there's movie night or game night, and before you begin those activities, you check in and see, "How was your week? How was your day?" It's important as family members and especially as parents of children to look in your child's face every single day and ask them, "How are you? Are you good?" And learn how to read their cues. Sometimes they're masking and hiding just like we do. And so you don't want them to do that in their early life. Build a culture of being able to be honest with your thoughts and feelings, that they're not going to be judged, and that they have somebody they can always come and talk to is very important. So connect with and ask your ancestors for help. We all have ancestors. And so those spirits, those ancestral spirits, in my belief anyway, is that they're always around and connected. Their DNA is in our bodies and they have a vested interest in our progress. So it's important for you, if that's something you can connect with, then do that with your children. It can be as simple as if you have a picture of grandma who's crossed over, who no longer is in the body, that you tell stories about that person and what made them special to you. What are the things that they taught you? What are the things that they valued? What did they offer to the community? We all are born to offer something back to the community, not just to receive things. And that builds a sense of continuity for our young children. And it reminds us that there's a purpose for us being on the earth. There's something big that we all came to do. So, one thing that you can do also is determine your personal best frequency. So, one of the ways you can do that is that you think about what it is that makes you feel good. So, if you don't know, what you can do is sit quietly and close your eyes and just ask yourself, what is my best frequency? And say it 3 times and mean it. Relax, breathe, and just wait. So you can ask yourself that question. And what you can do then is something will come to mind. So, what may come to mind is you went to walk by the lake and it just felt serene and beautiful and it made you happy. Maybe you can realize that you just had an internal smile that spread to your outside. It felt so good. Maybe you were connecting to the water, maybe you were connecting to the air, or maybe it was all of it. And write that down. And then do it again. Go in, close your eyes, ask yourself, what is my best frequency? What is my best frequency? And then you might remember the time that you laughed until you cried with one of your friends. And then you connect with that, step back into the energy of that experience and write down what it felt like to have that experience with someone that you cared about. And those are clues for you. There's that information again to let you know things that are pleasing to you, that bring you joy, that bring you happiness, that make you feel good about yourself and about life. And so those key things, then you can use that as clues to expand the opportunity for yourself to have those good feelings. So maybe you will decide, I need to go walk by the lake more often. boy, I need to connect with that friend more frequently. We don't get together enough. Or you have other friends that you know that you could have that same experience with. So then you can make a plan and then put those things into your schedule. So sit somewhere quiet and try it and see what comes up. So you can do that also with your children to help them connect to the things that work for them. Maybe they just love curling up and looking at a picture book, or if they're able to read, they love to read. Read together, have time when you say we're going to have reading time. And so everybody has their book. You don't always have to read together. You can do that too, but you're going to also each enjoy some time. Maybe you have 30 minutes here and there where everybody reads their favorite book or a new book. You go to the library or you download them or whatever. And you spend that time together, and that creates that thing of being able to spend time alone to entertain yourself, as well as promotes reading. And then after the time for your reading, you can each share a little bit about why you chose that book or what you liked about it. For children who are not old enough to read and maybe they go through the picture books pretty quick, then you could have some crayons or markers for them to use during that time as well, or end the time with part-time alone with enjoying story time with you and part-time on their own. So those are some things you can do easily, easily, easy. And then you're going to write down some of these things to keep in a book for the family so that when you forget some of the things that help you connect, then you can go back and look at the book. Okay. Let's see here. Where are we? What else did I want to share with you? Oh, when you're figuring out some of the things that you really enjoy doing, pay close, close attention to how you feel in your body and where you feel those things in your body. Noticing if your shoulders are more relaxed or if your heart is beating, a little slower. Do you feel more relaxed all over? All those kind of things are clues to let you know what it is that's helpful. So you're going to make these plans and you're going to vary the plans and you're going to adapt them so that it doesn't get boring doing the same thing all the time. So you're going to keep a log. Maybe you'll put up a whiteboard in the family room and write them down and change them periodically. Keep a record of them, maybe on the computer or something, so that after a couple of months you can say, hey, we didn't go walk by the lake for a while. Let's go do that. Very good things to do. So make it a regular thing that you do for yourself as well as a regular thing you do with your family members, your children, your loved ones, so that this whole aspect of our lives where we really require being aligned and where we want to feel whole can be something that we have a handle on so that we have less chance of getting out of alignment and staying out of alignment too long. We're going to get out of alignment. We're not going to feel whole all the time, but we don't have to be so far off of those points that it takes us a lot of time or a lot of trauma to recover. So, as we close, take a gentle breath. There is nothing to fix and nothing to rush. Carry with you what served you today from this talk and release the rest of it. I thank you for honoring every part of your human experience. In the coming episodes, we'll continue exploring this topic. Until next time, may you move through life aligned and whole. Take care.